record. So friends, today I want to share something that I heard, something interesting I heard from Venerable Ajhan Sujato yesterday. Some of you may be knowing I'm part of a 102-year-old or 103-year-old organization called Servants of the Buddha. And that organization has a talk every Saturday, Sri Lankan time, 4:30 to 6 o'clock. And many great speakers are invited to it. And this Saturday, the speaker was Venerable Ajhan Sujato, who joined us through Zoom from Australia. And his topic was on renunciation. So if I briefly tell what the Venerable Thero shared with us, renunciation, we hear this term through the great renunciation of Prince Siddhartha. And what we heard or what we have come across in the textbooks from school time is that Prince Siddhartha, at the age of 29, decided to leave the family way of life, the lay life, and become a monk. So he left his wife, only child, and his parents and siblings and the great wealth of a kingdom, and he was to be the next king. He was the crown prince. He left all of it and went and became a monk. So this is referred to as the great renunciation. So in introducing this speaker, Venerable Ajhan Sujato, what the president of the organization said was, we don't hear many talks on this topic, because generally the understanding is renunciation is about leaving the lay life and becoming a monk. And therefore, in many of the talks that monks deliver to lay people, you don't hear this much, because that is not the interest of many of the lay people. So this Venerable Thero gave a very, very interesting and useful take on this whole concept. And what he said was, so renunciation is finally, it's about letting go. It's about letting go. So letting go doesn't always have to be at that grand scale, because for us to leave everything behind and go and become a monk, it is a grand scale level activity. And what he said was, we need to understand why anybody would want to let go of something. What is the benefit of letting go? So for us to gauge that by asking, what is the benefit? And in any letting go, initially there will be a discomfort. Of course, there will be a discomfort. But after that initial discomfort, what are you left with? If you are left with greater peace than you were before, then probably letting go of it was a useful thing for you. And that is the gauge or the scale you need to use to assess what to let go and when to let go. So for example, let us say that there is a show on Netflix that you believe is taking up more than the fair share of time and actually negatively impacting other things in your life, and deciding to let go of that show is a small step in that renunciation. And what do you get as a result? So initially there'll be the discomfort, but as the mind gets used to, and how the mind works is initially when you stop something that you are attracted to, the mind works a lot on the recency effect. So it will keep reminding you about what you are missing, and that is purely from the recency effect. And when you are engaged in other activities, those become the recency effect, and that gradually fades away, and the reminders will be less frequent. There will be reminders, but it will be less frequent. So that is what we usually experience as a discomfort when we let go of something that we really like. And I had tried this, and we all have tried this. I had tried this long ago with sweets. One of my biggest, and I don't know whether I can call it a handicap, but yeah, it's a big thing for me. It's a biggie for me. And initially it was uncomfortable the first week. The second week was also uncomfortable, but not as much as the first week. By the time I completed a month, it was plain sailing. And I managed to stay 3 months like that. The next 2 months, it was actually freedom to go to places, to see the kind of work I did at that time took me into hotels with buffets frequently, lunches, dinners. So to go to a buffet and to see an entire section of desserts and to not want it and to be just okay, absolutely okay, and be at peace was freedom, was freedom. I can't remember what brought me back. So those reminders that comes to you, so probably I worked on one of those reminders. So even though it fades away, it's probably there. And probably one reminder said, you have been away for 3 months, you have been a good girl, and why don't you take one bite? And that probably, I can't remember what happened. It probably brought me back into whatever it is. But I remember feeling completely at ease because gradually you get to a place where that former thing has no value anymore. And when there is no value, what you are left with is freedom. So what are those one or two little things you want to renounce? Now, once one auntie I know told me, I want to let go of my son. And I was like, good heavens, auntie, why would you want to do that? Because that son was her only child, and her husband was not there for a long time. And I know how much of a gem or a precious thing that son was for this auntie. So usually people feel that way when they are deeply hurt or pained by a person. And that is when thoughts of renunciation comes to us, when we feel that we are getting tormented now by this love. And that is, I don't know, but personally I feel that's probably the wrong reason to let go. Because it almost seems like there's a bit of a revenge in there, vengeful. And I detected that in the mannerism in how the auntie spoke, and having a conversation with her, I realized that it was absolutely the case. So she was feeling hurt because this young person hadn't spoken to her in a while, and she felt that if he felt the same love that she felt for him, he should talk too. But I recently learned from a very wise person that the whole love of the parent and child bond is just one way, and that's so true. It was such a wise thing. And whatever you feel as a parent, that is not what your child is feeling. And while the child is obviously has a lot of love for you, you are not top of your child's mind, and that's normal and common. And when we reflect on it as children versus our parents, I think anybody would be able to understand this. Probably there are exceptions. So I was trying to explain to this auntie that letting go when you have been hurt by somebody, yes, that is usually how the world chooses to let go of things. They get angry and unhappy, and they want to leave, run away from the problem that is causing that unhappiness and so on. But here, what it is something entirely different. It's about wanting to let go because you believe that after that discomfort of adjusting to the new, there will be peace than it was before. And that is where renunciation, am I pronouncing it right? That is where it works really well. Because if you let go of something out of pain, where there is an underlying anger or vengeance in it, that part is going to keep you very, very unhappy. So this this was a very interesting take by Venerable Ajhan Sujato, and I thought I'll mention it. He mentioned another take on renunciation, and that is in terms of moderation and how we are consuming in such an unmoderated way that we are causing the destruction of the planet, the plants, the animals, the everything. And he mentioned how at a climate summit, one climate expert actually used the Pali word nekkhamma. So nekkhamma refers to the renunciation of lay things, how a lay person will renounce. That is what nekkhamma refers to. And this climate expert actually used this Pali word to say that it is time the world, the humans, learned and practiced nekkhamma. Our excessive consumption is bringing the planet to the brink of everything, right? Extinction, disasters, lots of things. And we can see that. And his question was, do we really need all of these? And of course, there is a huge economical, what do you say, machinery behind all of this, the creation of the needs in us, all the advertising that supports it, and the economic benefits that come with it for the people promoting it and all of that. So it's all built on this huge mechanism, and it's coming at a cost. And the whole question about what do you really need and how much do you really need? So that was a very, very interesting take on renunciation, to say that we know we are excessive. Can we be moderate? Can we moderate ourselves, regulate ourselves for the benefit of the planet? Probably an amazing take on this whole thing. And the only way to do that is one person at a time. And it will definitely help you to stay in the path. And of course, Ajhan Sujato was saying that there were about 50 people in the talk. I'm probably preaching to the converted, as people who are in a talk like this on a Saturday afternoon. That is renunciation as well, right? Because you had to give up something else in order to be here. And similarly, all of you here listening today, you had to give up something else in order to be here and to listen to a talk that is going to be wholesome for you spiritually, in a time where you could have indulged in some material pleasure. That is renunciation. And by doing this every week, if you find, because this is all the Buddha's words and thoughts, and it's all about the Buddha's words. And even though we say this Venerable Thero said this, that Venerable Thero said that, it's all coming from that source of inspiration. And if that is giving you peace, then this is a form of renunciation. Every Sunday, you put aside 2 hours for peace. And that made me understand how important that part of renunciation is also, because the Buddha clearly said, if you are interested in the path of enlightenment with the end objective of enlightenment, there are 4 things you need to do. And one of it was listening to talks, Dhamma talks, that inspires you to stay on the path, that inspires you to take action, which are of the Noble Eightfold Path. So the right action, the right inspiration, the right thinking, and the right behaviors. So that just reminded me that while I do listen to talks as a source of inspiration for these meditation sessions, this reminded me that maybe I should be more structured and scheduled it, so that I have scheduled renunciation into my daily life, scheduling renunciation. And that was very, very inspiring. And something else inspiring happened yesterday. Our Dhamma school is on holiday. We're starting next week. So yesterday morning, we met, the staff met for a staff meeting to prepare for the new term starting next week. And in a customary manner, we met at the temple and we observed the 5 precepts. And I told everyone, let's just be mindful for 5 minutes. Let's just meditate for 5 minutes and do any meditation you want, just for 5 minutes. And mostly people are very conversant in the metta meditation and anapanasati, buddhanusati. So I just mentioned this and said, pick one and just do it. And for me, I decided to do nothing, to just be. So I just closed my eyes and just stayed still. And I thought, let me see what it is like to do nothing. And instantly my attention was drawn to the fact that I am not calm. I am not in a state of peace, not in a state of calm. And it was just observing that. And I thought that is normal, that is common. I called that meeting, the staff meeting, and I had an agenda to discuss. And I was the chair of the meeting, for this meeting at least. And that was weighing on my mind. And there were outcomes I wanted from the meeting. So all that was there. Plus, when I took that 5 minutes to do nothing and just to observe, I realized that this is how I am usually: agitated, restless. I wouldn't say, yes, I think that the more accurate term would be restless. There was nothing I was agitated about, but there was indeed a lot of restlessness. And I just continued to observe it because I found that very interesting, to see the quantum of restlessness that was there. And I was surprised. In fact, I was taken by surprise, because whenever I go to the temple for the Dhamma school or for anything Dhamma related, I feel very peaceful. And I was expecting, when I closed my eyes and looked inside, I was expecting to find peace there and to find restlessness. That was surprising. And then I was thinking, no wonder we humans fall sick, because this is how we are probably in our day-to-day life. And when there is no apparent issue right now, I am this restless. And imagine when things are not going right, which is usually how the world is. They are usually either late, or there's too much traffic, or some other issue to be solved. And when things are heightened, imagine the agitation, the frustrations, the minor irritations, the minor angers, and all of that in together. I was thinking, no wonder humans fall sick, because we live life like this. And then by the time you're 40, 45, you just look at the statistics. That is when things like high blood pressure, um, cholesterol, then diabetes, um, and various other things, anxiety, depression, gastritis. I don't know, there are some 12 or 16 very common illnesses, chronic illnesses, that are referred to as psychosomatic illnesses, diseases, which is stress induced. And therefore, also the reverse is possible through mindfulness, through meditation, through yoga, and various other such things, even possibly prayer and so on, which has a very positive impact. So I certainly know that mindfulness meditation techniques has a very positive impact on those diseases. And it has some research evidence, I believe, that it can be reduced. These things can be reduced. And certainly doctors recommend that while you take medicine, you need to also find a way to relax and so on. So, and why I wanted to share this is, when I thought I am feeling peaceful and relaxed, and only when I closed my eyes and looked inside, I realized that I'm not peaceful, I'm not relaxed. And that was a surprise for me. And it just reminds me that how important it is to start the day with some mindfulness meditation, especially metta meditation. I felt metta meditation has a very soothing effect on the mind and the body. So today, therefore, friends, I thought, why don't we just take 5 minutes and look inside to see what's going on. What state is the mind in? And just before we started, I was talking to a really dear friend and a teacher, and I was telling this example of how the mind can be described about the almost like the 2 states of the mind, if I'm trying to put it in a simple way. And that is, the first state is to think of the mind as a large empty hall with all the doors and windows open. And that is one state of the mind, or one quality of the mind, where it is large, it is still, and it is silent, right? So the mind, one quality of it is like a large hall, it is still, it is silent, and the doors and the windows are open. Anything can come in, anything can go out. And therefore, mostly there will be air coming in and going out, light breeze, wind coming in and going out. And then occasionally there will be a lizard that comes in, and if left unattended, will go out, taking its own time. There might be a bird who flies in and then goes out. So if we use this as a metaphor for the mind, So one quality of the mind is like that whole. It is already still. It is already silent. And that is what we can refer to as the knowing mind, the consciousness, the knower. And the rest of the things that come to the mind, we can think of it as the air that flows through, the light breeze, the wind, and that bird and the lizard and various other things, other creatures that can come in at their own will and go at their own will. And those are the thoughts, emotions, and moods that get triggered by things you see with your eye. So what you see, you start thinking about. Things you hear through your ear, what you hear, you start thinking about. Things you smell, the nose, what you smell, you start thinking about. Things you taste with your tongue, what you taste, you start thinking about. Things where you feel the touch through your body, and that you start thinking about. And random thoughts, moods, and emotions that just come in. So these, what I described, were the six sense doors and the six sense objects. And the mind as a knower and a doer is like this large hole. It is very still and it is silent. And then these other things come in through knowing that you can see something, you can hear something, you can touch something, smell something, taste something, or some emotion, some mood has come, just knowing that it has come. So how the Buddha explained this was, your job is to observe that a thought has entered the mind. So for example, what are those thoughts? So let's say, so over here it is in the morning and maybe it's time for breakfast. So let's say a thought entered the mind saying, I need to make breakfast. And while you are going and making breakfast, you can just acknowledge it to yourself that a thought has entered the hall, right? And while you are eating your breakfast, you might think, oh, this is actually very yummy. And then you can again reflect and about, you now know that another thought has entered the mind, right? Then maybe a thought enters the mind saying, last week so-and-so said this to me, I should have slapped him. And then you can be aware that a thought has entered the mind. Now, one thought, if you reflect, one thought that entered the mind was, let's go and make breakfast, and that is useful and practical for sustenance. Another thought that entered the mind was like, this breakfast is yummy. So that is a pleasurable, thinking about a pleasurable experience on the tongue. And yet another thought was about, somebody told me something, I should have slapped him. So that was a thought arisen by remembering something, right? So you remembered something and a thought arose in relation to what you remember. And there it was a thought derived from aversion or some little bit of anger and irritation about what happened. So if what we do is we commonly label these things. So going to have breakfast is probably a pleasurable thing, thinking about it. Then enjoying the taste is a very pleasurable thing, something you really like. And a thought that a memory of something negative that happened, and then the thought of wanting to slap somebody. So that's a aversion-led thought. So the lobha dvesha kind of things. So those labels is not what is important here. What is important here is at a very basic level, the mind, there is a knower, which is the great whole that is still and silent. And as things come in, just to be aware that a thought has come in. A thought has come into the whole. Okay, so that is a technique. But let us now be silent for 5 minutes and just observe What is going on? What is going on? So Vipassana is all about turning your attention inside, because we are generally habitually having our attention outside. Vipassana is when we turn our attention inside and be curious as to what is going on inside. And that we do through observing the thoughts that enter this still and silent hall. So let us observe what is going on. What do you feel? Whatever that is going on right now. So I'll keep the timer for 5 minutes and let us observe what is going on. Let us start now. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'd like to ask you what it was like. Suramali, would you like to comment?
Yes, Akka. So my mind, just like Akka, is also kind of not still, Akka. So even though it appears still to anyone that is perhaps speaking with me, in reality, it wanders quite a bit. So I spend time kind of bringing the attention back to the center and trying to be present in the moment, even though it routinely wanders aside. But I appreciate the practice of being able to try to bring the mind back, because I know it's a slow process. It's a gradual process, but there is slow improvement, and I am encouraged by that slow improvement.
Fantastic. And from a mood or emotion point of view, what did you feel? Is it peaceful? Is it restless? Is it calm? Is it soothing? Is it something else? How would you describe it?
In general, Akka, based on my improved understanding of how the mind wanders, I always view kind of movements away as not necessarily soothing, and bringing the mind back to the present as the soothing effort. So I would say the external thoughts are, to use Aka's exact words, are like pressures that pull me away, and I feel as if I'm succumbing to the pressures to go towards that. So there is some sense of perhaps value in that, but I realize that that is fleeting, and the reality is it is primarily taking me away from what could bring me most comfort, which is staying in the present moment.
And are you able to use that analogy that the Buddha was talking of a whole to observe that, to know that it is what it is?
I think so, Akka. Yes, meaning almost like the Chittanupassana or practice. I think so, Akka. Yes.
All right, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Samanthi, would you like to share what you saw, felt?
Yes, Nadisha, Teruvan Saranai. Yeah, first it was really a restless thing, like you mentioned, for your experience, like for you in the yesterday. But I recon my mind, like you said, I recon it to the mind as a huge hall, which is empty, still, and silent, and with all doors and windows open. So I thought I have opened 5 doors except my eyes, because I was closing my eyes. And my father brought an incense stick, so there's a sweet smelling coming from that. So my door was nose and the sense was smell. So I I was feeling that smell. And one end the fan was working, and my door was my body, and I felt the sensation, the cooling breeze. And likewise, I was reckoning 3 doors, and to my tongue also there was a vitamin C given. I was doing that be the funny part. Anyway, so I was wondering now, I was reconciling on all three doors, my tongue, my nose, and my body. And you said now you can open your eyes. But anyway, on this very small, I think I was meditating only for, I mean, not meditating, the observing, only for 3 minutes, but it was fruitful. Yes, I was at the moment. Yes, thank you.
And you could see the thought coming from each of those sense contacts.
Correct. Clearly, I saw it. Yes, I was able to see it clearly.
Very good. And that is what we need to try and cultivate as much as possible. So that's really great. That's really
Yes,
great.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Charmaine, would you like to share anything? I don't know whether you can find the unmute button. And there's no need to share if it's technically not possible. So
Hi, Alisha. Can you hear me now?
yes.
Yes. I really wanted to keep my mind still. So I'm just seated in front of a small pond of fishes and I was just gazing at them, mind nothing. But towards the end of it, I got a bit disrupted because my husband was pounding a little fish food to be given to them. But then it was peaceful, Nadisha. I really felt it that I should keep my mind a little more peaceful. That's why I was gazing at the little fishes. I'm very happy about it. Thank you, Nadisha.
Fantastic. Fantastic, Charmaine. Thank you so much for sharing. So let us then so today I thought let me get some inputs from you and just check. Usually we talk at the end. So let me do that now. And today I have a requirement to stop by 10:30. So we have 45 minutes to meditate, and I suggest let's do that. And if you would like to stay back for 5 minutes and talk about it, that's fine. Let's make sure we have a good 45 minutes to practice this. So what we'll do is start with metta meditation, right? And I would like you to do it by yourself. Start with metta because that is always the best foundation to for a meditation session. And then go on to anything that you feel like doing. So it could be Buddhanusati, it could be Anapanasati, or it could be to continue with metta. And as and when you realize a thought has entered, be aware. Be aware. And if you feel you have, you can see the label. Is it a good? Is it a bad? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Be aware of that also, that you have a label for it. And try to stay in that whole space of a thought has entered the hall. And let us then practice. So I'll keep the timer for 45 minutes. All right. And I will also post the recording so that for anybody who wants to listen later, they don't have 45 minutes of silence. Let me pause it. All right. So how did that go? Mr. Rumali, would you like to share any thoughts on the talk and how the meditation went?
Yes, Akka. I liked the discussion at the very beginning about kind of how we are renouncing things even gradually by attending a meditation practice, and also how the scheduling of that is almost like scheduled renunciation. So until we get to the point where we are naturally renouncing things, it's good to schedule renunciation. In terms of the meditation practice, I found it helpful to kind of have that focus time where I observe the mind and bring myself back to the present moment. And so for extended periods, it becomes more challenging than for shorter periods, but there are segments where my focus is better because I've been applying it for a continuous time as well. So I find it always helpful. Thank you. Thank you very much for that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Savanthi, how was the talk and the session for you? What reflections?
Talk was very interesting, Nadisha. Thank you so much. It was very different to what for the normal sermons I have listened to. It was very simple, very realistic, and very practical also. Talking about the meditation session, it was overall a very fruitful session for me, Nadisha. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Shamin, what about you?
I think the talk was really great, Nandisha. I just learned something out of it. And it is, based on the relationships we have with our families, it should develop a little more. So it was very, very interesting and I really liked it. Meditation, of course, really I gained a lot, to keep my mind cool and calm. That's what I should do, Nadisha, always. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Shamin. So what I did was I started with metta meditation and I liked it. So I continued with metta meditation. What we usually do, metta to parts of the body and then myself, and then family, and yeah. So that was good. I felt it's something I need to do every day. It will probably put me in a place of I felt greater patience, probably more love and kindness for myself and for others. And ideally, I would like to end the day with a similar metta meditation as well. Just a few thoughts that I couldn't share. So the 5 minutes yesterday and 5 minutes today that I practiced, in both 5 minutes, I felt it was the longest 5 minutes of my life. So that is also an indication of a restless nature. Usually 5 minutes is nothing, but when you do nothing, 5 minutes can be very long. So yesterday to today, yesterday, every minute I was looking at the timer to see, is there something wrong with the timer? Isn't the 5 minutes over yet? And I did it 4 times out of the 5 minutes. Today, I looked at it only once. And then there was just less than a minute to go. So I can feel that today I'm more relaxed, therefore. So this is a journey of self-awareness. And so was yesterday a better day? Is today a better day? There's no judgment required like that. It's more about getting used to developing this habit of understanding and awareness. Understanding and awareness. It all starts with that awareness of what is going on right now. All right, so I'll take your leave for today. So let us pass merits then. May all the merits of today's meditation and listening to Dhamma, the Dhamma talk, may all this merit get passed to anyone who is looking for merit, as well as for all your dear departed relatives and friends. And may this merit benefit all of you with greater health, greater happiness, and well-being, and help you stay on the spiritual path and achieve your spiritual objectives. May the Noble Triple Gem bless you all. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I will see you all then